This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I'm your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome back, Mozz. Tonight's episode, Agent Carter, Season 2, Episode 7, Monsters. As Peggy plots a rescue mission, Whitney hunts for even more dark power, and Jarvis learns he should not make promises he cannot keep. Our director this evening is Metin Hussein, as Metin Hussein. I don't know the difference between those two, but okay. Writers, of course, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Get our Marvel Comics created by credit. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely are created bys. This episode was written by Brandon Easton, and two for the price of one story editors, Sue Chung and Eric Pearson, and then the person that makes them both executives, hardest working woman in show business this week, Lindsay Allen. Lindsay Allen is our story editor. Okay, so tonight we open up at Anvil Studios, which is an interesting name. I don't know if that's supposed to be a reference to anything, which is weird because you'd think there'd be some kind of reference, you know. But I'm thinking it's like Warner Brothers cartoons. They drop anvils on people, but that
was my first thought.
Yeah, I mean it's an odd choice for a studio. But anyway, Anvil Studios, and our lovely villainess, Madame Mask, Whitney Frost, is very sorrowful for the recent passing of her dear husband, Mr. Chadwick. And she does lay it on thick for them. But, you know, while she's giving her press conference, of course, she's looking directly at Peggy as she talks. And she is making her plans to build out her empire. Sousa and Peggy pretty much agree that, you know, until they see a body, they're not assuming that what's her name? Dottie is dead. Which is a fair cop, because the next thing we see is good old Kurtwood Smith planning on interrogating her. And being somewhat out of his league, wouldn't you say?
Completely out of his depth. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing she says, I pulled out my own fingernails, I pulled out my own teeth. I was like, oh my God, this is a serious, serious spy.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess you'd have to, you know. You got to be ready to deal with this kind of stuff. This is the stuff they're going to do. Although, I'm going to be honest with you, you don't pull out someone's fingernails, you put something under the fingernail, because it's not the pain, it's the prolonged agony.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what you want to go for. You want that thing that's, you know, because interrogationists should never be in a hurry. If you're in a hurry, you're just going to get bad intel. You want it to be an ongoing process. You know. Unfortunately, Kurtwood does not have that luxury of time, and you know that puts him in a difficult position, because if you can't torture him and you have you don't have the time to do it in, what are you supposed to do?
Have no leverage.
Yeah, he has no leverage, but you know, Whitney does have leverage. and
hell.
this is the I'll do it myself scene, where, she comes up and essentially uses this when we don't know what it does. And that's the thing, is we don't know what it does, but we do know it's bad. Because,
Well, I mean, we kind of know what it does. She did it to Chadwick and to the other dudes at the table, and I mean, I guess we don't know where they went, but we're assuming they're dead, right?
Yeah, but in all those cases, she absorbed them. In this case, what she's doing is just running the darkness, the zero matter, through someone else.
Yeah, I felt like it was like, just the tip kind of, It's like, I'm just going to put it in you for a little bit to scare you and then pull it out. Kind of, I'm going to taste you but not devour you.
Exactly, but it is, I imagine there's a psychological, because that's the thing, if it was just pain, if it was just because we see that...
No, it's really the threat of actually ending you. She doesn't feel like, the American establishment has the guts to actually kill her, so they have nothing to threaten her with. Pain is pain she's comfortable with, but this woman, she knows, she's seen what she does to people, and so that is a very real threat.
Either.
Huh?
I do not think she's afraid of death. I don't think death is in any way her fear in this. No, there's something else on the other side. And that's what we're getting from this, is that there's something else there's something on the other side.
Some consciousness.
That is looking back. That is what is frightening. Because we hear it. We hear it.
That's interesting, yeah.
We hear about it. Next episode is the voice. And we've seen that with Dr. Wilkes when he fades out and he sees what is effectively the Upside Down. Now, as has been said, this is like when we start talking about the whole of the MCU, this zero matter was thought to be tied to the dark dimension where Dormammu is from. So there's a very real aspect of this story that is, Dormammu and the Dark Dimension and the Mindless Ones and all of this magic that is just outside of our realm that is so much more scary than anything in this realm. And that is the reality of it. We do get Wilkes's cage made so that he can become solid again, and then for the first moment really gets to be solid with Peggy. And it is a moment for the both of them that they can touch for once. I believe they actually kiss, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, but unfortunately for Wilkes, there's been a recent development in her romantic career.
Oh, well, I mean, it's, everybody loves Peggy. Peggy's got her own thing, that's
yeah, no, but she's feeling Sousa too, and she has been for a while. And, Wilkes was nice, but she came here with the hopes of getting with Sousa.
Yeah.
And that's finally becoming possible. So it's like that kiss is very awkward for her because she was just about to kiss Sousa.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but she kisses him back too. So
right. Which is, it's like, okay, I can see where he's coming from. He's not really, and I don't care to have the conversation that's not appropriate any longer at the moment. So whatever. That was,
I don't think, I think you're reading more into her. I think she was into it. I think that was 100%.
She didn't want to be.
Who wants to? She doesn't want to feel it for Sousa either. That's the thing. It's like, here she is. She's got these two guys that are...
I don't know if she doesn't want to feel it. She's excited that Sousa's available.
No. I think she's mad. I do not think she's excited.
She was about to kiss him. They were both about it in that moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, without a yes, they were, but that doesn't mean that's, and that's sort of this thing. So right now, because Sousa wanted to be with his girl. his girl broke up with him because his girl felt that he was still hung up on Peggy. Now, whether he was or he wasn't, it was at the end of the day, he kind of felt that, you know what, Peggy is unavailable.
Right.
That if this was going to be me and Peggy, it shouldn't have to be me chasing her. You know, maybe he'd like to be chased for a little bit. Especially when it is this whole thing where, you know, he wants to be this good guy. He wants to be her friend. And her romantic interest has always been at an arm's length because her career came first. You know, and I think that is because, you know, for what it's worth, you know, if we go back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there really is no implication that they were together at that time.
That's true.
You know, it clearly says he wishes he could have said goodbye. But he doesn't sit there like he's hung up on her. You know, and clearly because he does start his relationship with Daisy by the end of that. So
that's also true.
You know, at any point in the whole story, you know, he could have gone back to Peggy, or he could have done whatever he was going to do. And, you know, and for all we know, Peggy was already rehooked up with Cat by that point. But
yeah, also true.
That's another universe, as they say. But
fair enough.
You know, as it stands, you know, I think, you know, because I think she was into Wilkes. I think she was very much into Wilkes. Now, and this is also maybe even a secondary aspect of that, where, you know, Peggy's into these guys in the sense that she's into these guys.
I almost felt like
as like, oh, who am I going to, you know, who will I wed and have a home with a nice picket fence with? I don't think she wants that with either of them. I think that's maybe that's the problem with Peggy, is that she definitely is a woman who is not looking to get married. You know, as it was, she had a guy, and then she decided that no, there was something else she had to do.
Yeah, but with someone like Sousa, their partnership in the business, so to speak, could prove to be an interesting dynamic to play a relationship off of.
Yeah, but then at the same time, then maybe that's even more reason not to. You know, I know it is the 50s, but still, you know, maybe it would be better if they didn't, if she wasn't sleeping with the boss, as it were. Or when she eventually becomes the boss, that Sousa's sleeping with the boss, you know. There's so many awkward levels to their relationship. I absolutely understand why, you know, she would be much more interested in Wilkes. So I do not.
I always felt like Wilkes was like a reactionary rebound kind of thing. She was just like, oh, Sousa's not available. I feel uncomfortable, and this guy's here. Might as well give it a shot, and she sort of let it go.
Well, yeah, but again, like I said, I get the feeling I think in both cases, it's this reality that she likes the idea of these men. That doesn't mean she wants to give them what they're looking for. These guys are looking
I see that.
for, you know, these guys are looking, even if they're okay with her being, you know, Peggy Carter's super spy as her day job, they're still thinking of domesticity. And, you know, I don't know if Peggy is ever going to want that. Although, then again, from what we've seen in the movies, we know that eventually she does get married and have children. But who she has children with, we still don't know. Bum. Okay. But getting back to this story, so Peggy, and, you know, they're trying to, you know, Jarvis fixes the transponder thing. And I was surprised. I thought that what's her name? Dottie had taken off the necklace, but apparently she had not. Because
she can't, because it would blow up otherwise, right?
Oh, was that? Okay.
I think that's like the thing they told her. I don't know how true it was, but
yeah. So fair enough. That could have just been them whistling Dixie at her. But as it
I
stands,
don't
but
see them actually, killing her. That's not their style, I guess.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, Whitney Frost has taken it off.
Right.
But she also is able to use that to later turn the transponder back on, so that when they turn on the tracker, they're able to see her. And of course, they make they know it's a trap, and everyone knows it's a trap, which is always very interesting. Say, well, obviously, if we can find her on the transponder now, it's because it's a trap. And they get the little, which I thought was kind of a cool device. I guess that's the early repulsor ray, is the little cannon that they create. The little concussion cannon.
Right.
Although obviously the joke is which we'll get to in a minute, is that Jarvis does it just fine the first time, and then when they actually go to utilize it as they're breaking into Whitney Frost's lair, and they have the Manfredi goons coming up to them, he puts in the number, and it doesn't work. And so they surrender and they're captured. And then, they're all tied up. And Peggy and Dottie are talking, and Dottie makes the point that, yes, it's a trap, but not for you. And this brings us back to Wilkes, because of course that's who
the trap is for.
Yeah, well, that's who Whitney wants. Whitney wants Wilkes because she knows Wilkes is alive and has been exposed to the zero matter. And this actually leads to a nice little scene with what's Jarvis's wife's name? I'm blanking on it all of a sudden. Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis, let's just say.
Mrs. Jarvis. So, and Mrs. Jarvis makes the Hungarian food for him. Anna Jarvis. Anna, that's her name. And immediately, and this is just where my mind is, just because I always think about this whenever we watch the DC movies or DC TV shows, and they're in their little prison cells and there's no toilet. And he's sitting there eating this big Hungarian meal. And all I'm thinking of is, this is going to be a problem in about an hour.
Well, unless he disincorporates, then he'll be fine, I guess.
Well, yeah, except, then does that disincorporate with him?
Or does it come back with him?
Well, that's the thing. So he disincorporates, and now that's disincorporated, right. But he still has to deal with it.
When he gets back, so like...
I guess maybe if he deals with maybe it remains disincorporated and it just goes to the center of the earth. So there we go. Problem solved. These are the things I think about. But yeah, so she goes to get Wilkes and realizes that he's in the cage. And she goes to use her powers on him, but then he pulls the zero matter out of her, and that of course gives him his physicality again. So now he has physicality,
and he can exist outside the cage.
Exactly, but they also make the point about but it's temporary and this and that, and it's a very interesting exchange they make. Especially, man, she gets him. She gets him when he's like, the world's just fine the way it is. And she's like, is it though?
I mean...
Yeah, and it really puts the onus back on him. And like, no, the world is not fine. The world is not fine in any way, but that doesn't mean it would be better under the dictatorial rule of one Whitney Frost, that whatever promise Whitney might make, it's temporary at best, and her motivation isn't pure in it either. It's okay. Well, what if what if you work with me and then I'll do this thing? It's like, well, if you were really that redemptive, then that would be the thing you'd do anyway, you know? It is a pretty rough go there, to say the least. No, I mean, do you have a different opinion on that, or?
No, I mean, it takes her a while to open up to him, to really sort of drive the point home that she started with, saying, hey, maybe the world's not okay, and the solution is not that, hey, we can make the world okay. That's not what moves him. What moves him is that you can exist outside that structure, and you can be stronger, and you can be powerful. That's what moves him eventually.
Yeah, I mean,
he has the capacity in him to be an evildoer, and she plays on that and lets it blossom a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we actually see some of that a bit next episode as well, which again is why I do think that there is more to Peggy's relationship with both of these men than we get on either side of it. But as it stands, you know, when Whitney is taking Wilkes out of there, and Anna comes to realizes what they're doing, they, you know, and then when, you know, and I'm trying to remember if Peggy and Jarvis are out of the car. No, they're not out of the car yet. No, that's right. But they know that it's coming, but they are pulling up, and Whitney makes the point, I don't have to, you know, basically I don't have to, you know, because Anna says, you know, she will come for you regardless, and you know, Whitney's like, well, I know that, but all I need is some time, and then she shoots Anna, which is just horrific. Shoots her in, interestingly enough, the same spot that Peggy got wounded, which is an interesting thing. It's the same, like, lower.
I feel like that's also sort of like the go-to spot in movies where you shoot somebody if you want them to survive.
Yeah, if you don't want them to die just yet.
Right. But it's a clever move on her part. You know, she doesn't kill her; she gives them work.
Yes.
You know,
because now
they need to go tend to her condition and can't, you know, give pursuit as well as they would have.
Exactly. And they do, and for what it's worth, you know, they rush her to the hospital, and this is the idea that, you know, Jarvis cannot make promises he cannot keep. And you know, that's just this go-to line throughout it, you know, of don't make promises you can't keep. Because I think he even says to her, you know, you're going to be fine, and she's
isn't that also what Peggy said to Cap right as he was going down into the glacier?
No, it's not.
No?
I don't think so.
When he says, you know, oh no, she agrees to the dance. When he says, I'll see you next year, she doesn't, she doesn't question it. She plays along. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so it's sad. But, you know, they take Peggy there. Interesting, hey, 1950s diversity, there's an Asian doctor. So, you know, that's good. And he is the surgeon on call, and he fixes up Anna as best he can. And do we get a resolution to that yet, or is it still does it end with her? Yeah, to Anna. Does it end with her in surgery? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that ends with her in surgery, and yeah, this is very much. I feel this is kind of like the Empire Strikes Back episode where basically the villains win everything. You know, so it's ending on this very dark moment of the villains triumphant, and what will the heroes do next? Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz? The bit with Thompson, that happens next episode, right? Yeah, Thompson is next episode. Thompson, I've got to. I kind of realized who Thompson is. And we'll talk about that next episode. And yeah, I think you'll be mad about who I say he is, but when I describe it, I think you're going to understand why. Yeah, that is exactly who Thompson is. Perhaps. I think what annoys me is, or what
this storyline is more telling of is not the character of Thompson, but I guess the character or maybe the skill level of the writers who wrote that character. I'm super annoyed by it. But in sharp contrast, we get that bit in this episode where Kurtwood tries to intimidate or tries to sweet talk Sousa, and Sousa's not having it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and also within this episode, that's actually the B plot we didn't get to in this.
Right.
Which was, that is this episode. So this episode opens up. So, okay. Because this is where he gets the file on Peggy, right?
Right. No, I don't know if it happens this episode, but Sousa, because Whitney has assigned Kurtwood to get her the uranium that Peggy had stolen.
Right.
So Kurtwood comes to Sousa to say, "Hey, I need your help finding these uranium rods, buddy. They would love a good story like yours in Washington. I could put you places." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, I'll do the best I can."
Yeah, which is not the best he can.
And then in the color of his eyes, he lets him know what that really means, and he pays for it.
Yeah.
And this again shows like how small time Kurtwood is in his attempts to threaten Dottie and in his attempt to exact some kind of punishment on Sousa. It's such like a baby tactics. Oh, I'm gonna have some guys rough you up. I mean, I guess it is the 50s, but it sounds like an old 50s move, But it shows sort of how inept at these dynamics Kurtwood perhaps is.
Yeah, and that is, I think, very much what is the issue. Kurtwood is used to being at the top of this pecking order, and so there's not a whole convolution to it. There's not a lot of aspects to it where he isn't in control, and now suddenly everything's been turned upside down. He's taking orders from this person who is not who he usually takes orders from, and her motivations and desires are completely alien to him because, normally it's just, okay, we maintain the status quo and everything operates the way it's supposed to, and lots of people get hurt, but we don't, And now it's like, okay, he has no leverage because even as it plays out, I mean, for what it's worth, Sousa knows that Kurtwood is basically not Dottie, is Whitney's errand boy, and it's like, I didn't give these things to you before. Why am I going to give them to you now? When you actually had power and were working with the Arena Club.
Oh, right. That's also true, right?
Yeah, it's like I wasn't particularly cooperative then. What makes you think now just because you try to turn on the charm that I'm gonna be, but puts him on leave, all this kind of stuff. It's sort of as his punishment, which is like, okay, yeah, but
it almost made me think like Sousa's like, oh, okay, now I don't have to report to the office at all, and I can just do whatever I want, and I have all my time to myself to focus on you, buddy. Good job. I was like, all right.
Exactly. It's not the best.
No paperwork.
On Kurt, but that's the problem. Is Kurtwood is trying to not get turned into goo, and but there's only so much you can do because these for what it's worth, much like Dottie, these were all trained professionals. These are people who are not just going to fold like a deck of cards because he looks at them mean. For what it's worth, even with Thompson, the only reason Thompson even gives Kurtwood deference is because they have this long history. But because Thompson's genuinely a coward. To a grand extent, yes. But I think more than that, it is just that, because that's the thing, and that's something I want to get into next episode, is I guess he's a coward, but he's not a bad guy.
Oh, I think he is a bad guy, and I think he knows it, and I think he's okay with it, and I think that bothers him.
Well, what I'll say is he's very venial. He's a coward, and he looks out for number one, but not to the extent, And that's I believe he has a line that he will not cross, and that line is when he feels he is when this will be bad for not just him, but this is bad on
No, I think that's an arbitrary line that is just there, that wasn't designed to be there, that serves the plot. I think it's just a poorly written character that's impossible to reconcile the many pieces of his personality that you get in different seasons and different episodes.
Yeah. I mean, I think
we have to make convenient justifications for it, and they're really hard to join with other theories that are easy to come to.
Well, like I said, when we get to next episode, I'm going to give you my theory. I'm going to explain to you who he is and how that character, because it makes sense in context. When you think about it, everything we know about him is very consistent with this other very famous character that you wouldn't associate with him, but once you get there, you're going to go, yes, I understand now.
All right.
But
look forward to that.
In the meantime, Mozz, if you're listening to this right now on substandard headphones, you may be missing. You may be missing a lot of the nuance of this conversation, and to that, I highly recommend you or any of our listeners go over to tweakedaudio.com. Yes, tweakedaudio.com, providers of fine sonic equipment for your perusal and use. Use the coupon code Southgate to get a discount on your purchase. Likewise, another thing you can use that coupon code Southgate for is to get a discount on Hunt a Killer over there at huntakiller.com, where Michelle Gray is trying to solve a cold case and could use your help, and where there is going to be a Blair Witch-themed case coming into Hunt a Killer soon. So that could be interesting, and so you should definitely go to huntakiller.com and look for all of that information. And if you also are done with that, have nothing else to do, why don't you just swing on down to our show notes, click on the Amazon link in our show notes, and go to Amazon.com, where literally everything else in the world is for sale. You can buy it there, have it delivered right to your home. Costs you nothing to do it this way. It helps out the show. And while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book, the only book written by the Southgate Media Group family about the joys, perils, and positivity of being a podcaster. And if anyone has any interest in any of that and they'd like to talk to you, Mozz, about this, how can they find you?
They can email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our Mozz and Poz once did, do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet something at some point, possibly Amphibia, because that's still on the air and still has live broadcasts, but I have to figure out exactly when it is. I think it's sometime on Saturday. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties, you've survived another night at the stormy seas with me and Mozz. We're docking now, but come on back again next week as we once again go full stream ahead. Arg.